We declare our right on this earth to be a man, to be a human being, to be respected as a human being, to be given the rights of a human being in this society, on this earth, in this day, which we intend to bring into existence by any means necessary.
Welcome, everybody. Free the land, all power to the people. I am Brother Zaid Muhammad. I'm going to want to welcome you to yet another edition of our Revolutionary Fourth Sunday. This particular Sunday, we are doing it in anticipation of the International Day to Eliminate Violence Against Women. Some background is in order before we get into it in the way that we usually do. Several years ago, I was asked by one of my favorite elder comrades, Esperanza Martel, to help develop a call for 100 Black and brown men to come out against domestic violence in support of a powerful march against domestic violence that happens every year in New York City called the Brides March. And this was year 25, the Brides March. Back in 1999, a young woman named Gladys Ricard was shot to death in her bride gown on her way to her wedding by her former partner. A young social worker and organizer named Josie Ashton took that very personally. And the next year, she literally walked from Washington Heights all the way down to Florida in a bride's gown to dramatize the whole question of domestic violence in our community. That would morph into this annual march that goes from Washington Heights all the way to El Barrio every year on September 26th. And several years ago, Esperanza Martel asked me and several others, the great Quentin Walcott and a young man named Carlos Rosario, to really try and take up that charge. And we've been trying, and success hasn't been where it should be. And to be sure, we would not let the centennial of Malcolm go by without being more intentional about addressing that. So we're using the Malcolm's in his broad internationalism scope to shed light on that work in anticipation of this epic day that is the International Day to Eliminate Violence Against Women. That was implemented in 1979, and it was used to also memorialize the assassination of the Maribel sisters in the Dominican Republic, right? So it's a loaded day. It's a powerful day, right? And we do want to do our share the way Malcolm honored and upheld the dignity of Black and brown women as a revolutionary and minister and imam that he was, to try and move the needle further in that, because we ain't gonna free nobody if we ain't all free. And I would dare say ain't nothing revolutionary about sexism and domestic violence, nothing. And we shouldn't tolerate under any circumstances. So we got a powerful discussion today. Got two powerful sisters that I'm extremely proud of to help really shape that conversation. And we're likely to have a part two. We're contemplating a part two of this conversation. Part two might be a faith-based. We're getting some feedback. Everybody probably should go on mute while we're doing that. We should have a part two. And part two may be a faith-based one that looks at how we deal with this thing in religious spaces, right? For all of the aura around Malcolm's faith, right? The abuse that he protested took place within a religious context. And sometimes our religious institutions would lean more on the institution of marriage instead of the institution of safety when marriages ain't working right. And so there's a whole way that has to be approached and handled to change that game. And we have some folks that we are looking at to possibly have a part two on this. But this is a very special conversation that we're very anxious to have. We have to start the day, as we always do, with the inroads on our political prisoners. And I'm pained to announce, very pained to announce that just within the last few hours, we lost Imam Jamil Abdullah El Amin. in prison, in the clutches of the state. And that shouldn't have happened, but it did. I pray Allah, as a Muslim, I pray by the honor of our ancestors that we fix that and we lose no more of our freedom fighters in captivity. No more. This ain't gonna be no long thing on the PPs. That's heavy enough. But in anticipation of what must be done, we just had, I want to thank everybody on the Newark side that participated in our Newark Memorial Tribute to Asada just a few days ago. And we had Asada's stepdaughter, Thandisizwe Sadiki, in the house. And we lifted up Asada's co-partner and her dad, Kamal Sadiki, railroaded by the same judge that railroaded Imam Jamil in the so-called New South. We got to get Kamal Sadiki free. We're getting ready to do a 108-mile march over 12 days through the hills and valleys of the backwards up south state of Pennsylvania for Mumia Abu Jamal. And yours truly is going to march every single mile, every single day to change the die around that bogus legal framework that says he's out of appeals. We ain't accepting that. So get ready for some of that. Marchformumia.org. Check in. All you young folks about wellness and all those things that we didn't know about years ago, bring your wellness behinds into this march. Help us old heads try and do this. I'm actually one of the youngest doing this, and I'm in my 60s. That don't make no damn sense. But we're going to do it anyway. The fight for our freedom is a long march. Character of our struggle is protracted. It's a long march. We ain't taking a step backwards no matter the climate or conditions or whoever's in the goddamn White House. So I'm going to stop there. Do a brief libation statement. Hopefully honoring some women we love, starting with those close to Malcolm and those amongst our comrades. And I'm glad to bring back into our space our outgoing and very beloved former co-chair Dequi Kioni Sadiki, our first board member, right? And Dequi did great work for us when she was at our point. And I'm just glad that she's here in the space. And Dequi and I have both shared some uncomfortable space trying to raise this question that we need to raise more regularly. So as we do for the North, the South, the East, the West, for the four directions, for Orisha Suwe, Olumare, Obatala, Shu, Ifa, Ibaye, Ashe, Ibaye, Ashe. I want to call down the Orisha Oya, the one associated with Asada, that means transformation, right? Because we got a lot to transform. And that's the dance that we're going to do. And we're going to do it until we're free. And in the name of that, I'm going to call her name first. Asada Olugbala Shakur. We say Ibaye, Ashe, Ibaye, Ashe. Her mother, honored to also known, who was a ball of fire in her own right, Miss Doris Jackson, Ibaye, Ashe, Ibaye, Ashe, Ibaye, Ashe. Her famous grandmother, the one who was very in tune with her ancestors, Miss Lula Hill, Ibaye, Ashe, Ibaye, Ashe, Ibaye, Ashe. Some of the ancestors that walked with us on this walk with the Malcolm X Commemoration Committee. One of these days, we're going to get back to our dinner, rename it after one of the mothers of the new African independence movement, Ayalua Ferguson. We say Ibaye, Ashe, Ibaye, Ashe, Ibaye, Ashe. This great legend and beacon of internationalism who Malcolm recruited and who she recruited. They both mutually recruited into bold lines of solidarity. None other than Yuri Kuchiyama. We say Ibaye, Ashe, Ibaye, Ashe, Ibaye, Ashe. For Joan Reynolds, who Malcolm was her minister in the nation. Ibaye, Ashe. Her daughter was in the All African Revolutionary People's Party under Kwame. We say Ibaye, Ashe, Ibaye, Ashe, Ibaye, Ashe. And warrior lawyer Joan Gibbs, unheralded often, but with us for real in many spaces, was Barbara Herman's lawyer and key to getting him out. And today is the birth anniversary of a comrade that we also lost just recently, and that is in one of Asada's comrades in the party, with Cleo Selvas. For those two great women, we say Ibaye Ashe, Ibaye Ashe, Ibaye Ashe. So it is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. So the four directions, the north, the south, the east, the west, we say Ibaye Ashe, Ibaye Ashe, Ibaye Ashe, 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 Ashe. Oh, now let me introduce these powerful sisters who we got with us today. Rosa Clemente, one of our daughters of the Malcolm X grassroots movement, and the 2008 candidate for vice president of the Green Party. Ain't nobody getting stuck in the crack of the behind of the Democratic Party here. Rosa Clemente, right? And my sister over on the best coast, that is West Coast, Thandisizwe Chimurenga. Some of us are brave. 2 volumes of powerful narratives of some of the baddest Black women in struggle we can name, right? And just did a powerful book on Deborah Brown that's really an eye-opener, and why this conversation is so important, because we have to have these conversations.
Deborah Jones.
Deborah Jones. That's a Deborah Brown, didn't I? I apologize. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for correcting me. And our moderator for this evening, I am going to now step back, and I want y'all to light up the chat. Tell us where you're coming in from. Like and subscribe to the page. Share it out, right? Let's talk about how we continue to move the work. And I should say, I'm not sure yet if we're going to do Revolutionary Fourth Sunday for December, because it's going to be in the thick of Kwanzaa. So it all depends if we can get the right players together to do it. If we can't, we'll just press on. We've got a lot to do next year. Next year is the centennial of Fidel. Fidel. You know we're going to bang on some of that, right? So we got and the 60th anniversary of the Black Panther Party. So we coming into the new year, black and strong, right on the heels of everything we did this year to honor this of our leader, Malcolm X. Dequi Kioni Sadiki is here, and she is going to steward us through this powerful conversation. And I'm going to step back and, let it flow, let it flow, let it flow. Right? Y'all ready? Let me step back and get my behind out the way. Y'all carry on.
Okay. Thank you, Brother Zaid. Okay. I don't know why I can't see people on the okay. Thank you. What happened to the other sister?
I think she was doing tech. But I'm not sure.
Oh,
back. Yeah.
Okay. I got you. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. I'm so happy and delighted to see my sisters here. Rosa, I love your hair. You're looking beautiful and strong. Thandisizwe, you too. It's so good. We've spoken a couple of times, but to see y'all here is really good. So I think what we should do, because we don't presume that everybody knows who you are and what you do and your legacy and your work in this freedom work. So can we start by just giving a brief intro of, in your own words, of who you be and what you do in this work? So we'll start with you, Rosa.
Hi, everybody. My name is Rosa Clemente. I am an organizer, scholar, activist, producer. Finishing my PhD from UMass Amherst, 2008 Green Party presidential candidate, and currently a history teacher in a local high school here in Albany, New York.
I like that. Thank you, sis. Okay, Sizwe.
My name is Thandisizwe Chimurenga. I'm a freelance independent journalist and author, writer, and activist in Los Angeles, California.
Okay.
And we can go into some other stuff later.
Okay, well, good. Well, thank you. Well, I think that this is a question that is like ongoing and continuing because we live in this system of settler colonialism, capitalism, patriarchy, imperialism, and it creates the domination and the violence against women in particular, but children and all oppressed people. So I really prefer it to be more like a conversation between us rather than me just asking you questions. So Rosa, you've been you just been around forever, from MXG to, like you said, the Green Party, to educating, college, hip hop, all of these vehicles. And people often conflate, they think that because people are political, that they don't have sexism, right? Because we always hear about the sexism in the party, like people, like we didn't come from a system that's predicated on sexism. So can you talk about some of your experiences that you can recall of asserting yourself and people having issues with that because they were coming from you as a woman?
Yeah, so for me, I grew up in a household where my father was more feminist than my mom, because there's this complete narrative that all Latino men, Puerto Rican men, machismo. My dad was never like that. He worked really hard to his day. He's has his business in the Bronx. And honestly, my dad never said, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't do that. And obviously, as I became a teen and was pushing boundaries, my mom, obviously was like, you shouldn't do that, or, certain things. And then my dad would be like, well, no, it's not her fault. It's the guy's fault. So I grew up like that. I faced sexism when I got to SUNY Albany as an undergraduate and became a student leader and became president of the Black Student Union. And when I look back at that time, it's interesting because I saved everything. And I remember that we always did like a Black man's week, a Black woman's week, a Hispanic man. And a lot in the 90s was like us dividing ourselves into these self-segregated spaces. And then I also remember, like, we were really hyper-focused on men. Like, if I look back at that time and what we were learning in the world, but also you talk about the 90s, the explosion of mass incarceration, police violence. And it was always men. It was always like, we got to support the brothers and we got to do this and we got to do that kind of thing. And so for me, the older I got, but then when I got to Cornell and with Dr. James Turner, Dr. Turner was like, no, you have to also uproot the patriarchy in yourself. And I was like, oh, yeah. Because I did grow up in that time where just girls were always pitted against each other and teenager girls were just mean and those kind of things. But once I was with Dr. Turner, and then once I met Richie Perez and Iris and SB and all of them, there was definitely a struggle in Malcolm X grassroots movement. Like, there was a struggle. And then when I ran, the worst part was definitely when I ran for vice president of the United States, right? Like the death threats, the kind of C word, or even some of my former people I marched with, the men were like, oh, that's a joke. You're so funny. Like, she asked mad, like they were like, Cynthia asked mad men before you, and they all said no. And I was like, yeah, because men aren't brave like women. So I say yes, So, but also within that time, it was like a lot of hip hop activism. And honestly, I just got tired of the whole 4 women on a panel talking about feminism in hip hop. I was like, I'm not doing that anymore. But definitely in the last, I would say, maybe decade, because the 40s and 50s are so free. And I look back at all the times I was just on the road with a lot of guys. And I would be sitting in the back like, do y'all hear yourself? Like, you just got off the stage talking about Black women are beautiful. Like, what? Like, y'all are mad sexist and you're mad patriarchal. So I think that my generation definitely was pushing, right? But then I think this new generation took it to the level that it needed to be at. I I know for myself, I definitely started just to leave a lot of spaces. I'm like, I'm not doing this for another 15 years. Like, y'all know better. You're not doing better. You're 40. You're not 25 anymore, kind of thing. So for me, I think that was always a contradiction in the struggle. But like I'll say again, I think the era, the Ferguson era and the Black Lives Matter era, then opened up space not just for finally like supporting young Black women, it also opened up the space that I think for me I needed to do better at, which is with our LGBTQIA folks. And I'm really grateful to that generation because I had to like sit with myself and be like, wait a minute, just because you don't say anything bad because you're not that person, why aren't you more on offense? Like, why am I not talking to people in my family? Well, and I went on this point. What I'm trying to say is like, for me, it was eye-opening in the sense that obviously I have gay people in my family. But what I remember a couple of my titis, and I think maybe my mom might have said it one time, was like, listen, everybody knows, but we don't talk about it. I'm like, right, when we don't talk about it, you're erasing them. And then I had to be like, Mom, my uncle, I was like, Mommy, Theo has not had a roommate for 30 years. That's his partner. Like, nobody has a roommate for 30 years. It's like, we kind of knew that. But let me end on this point because I think we just saw the patriarchy. That meeting with Trump and Zohran, that's the patriarchy. Because you cannot tell me if Zohran was a woman that they would have even been invited into that space. If they were invited, Trump would have did what he always does, his sexism, patriarchy, and all of that. Because it's the same thing that happened with me in the Green Party. You know, I was like, if me and Cynthia, let's say it would have been like M1 and Rodrigo Stars, they would have mad people supporting them. But we didn't. But even now, that White House thing was just so telling. And for me, I'm like, Zohran, you cannot be next to this dude laughing when this man is a sexual abuser. Like, I don't understand that. It was so surreal to me. Like, I get the politics, but to see him there laughing with Trump, we're going to work together. I'm like, you know what? What you should be saying is like, until you stop talking about a woman like this, until you own up to all you've done, I'm not just going to sit here, laugh with you and have dinner. So to me, that's the patriarchy. And we just saw it happen.
I thank you for that. I think that that's such a great point. The patriarchy is not just, it's the physical violence. We know that, like Zaid mentioned, the walk, the sister that got murdered on her, you know, on her wedding day to someone else by a former partner. So we often think about the violence being physical, but it's not being taken seriously. It's being the butt of jokes. It's like all those ways that are insidious and the violent. You know, we have to change the narrative and counter the narrative about what is violence. The erasure of people, like what you said to your mom. Like when we don't talk about it, it's erasing people. It's like when white people say, "Oh, I don't see color," then that means you don't see me, because that's the first thing that you see. So thank you so much for saying that. Okay, Sister Sizwe, what about you?
Sis, I'm over here, as I said to Baba Zaid off stage. Thank all of you. Thank you for putting this together. Thank you for inviting me. But I took a nap before. You know, I have to take naps. Sometimes my medication. And I wake up and I find out backstage that Imam's meal has passed. So I'm over here eating backstage and on my phone while Baba Zaid and y'all are talking. So I want y'all to excuse me for a moment, because that should not have happened. It should not have happened because he's a freedom fighter and has always been a freedom fighter. And as I just posted on Facebook, while y'all were talking, I'm going to say it here out loud. And I seek forgiveness, and I will apologize later if I am wrong. But at this particular moment, his death is because of the incompetence of our movement. Now, if I'm wrong later, I'll apologize, but that's how I feel right now. When I say this should not have happened, it should not that it should not have happened because he should never have been captured. It's because of us. It had been, I don't even remember when it was. I know we're talking about violence against women. I just got to get this out. My mom passed away. We found out she was in the 4th stage, the terminal stage of lung cancer. So whenever I hear about cancer, it triggers me. And I don't know if it was a year ago, whenever it was, but they finally released a photograph of Imam Jamil with that huge tumor on his face. I was like, oh my God, this man is going to die. How did this happen? How and now we're here. He has passed on. And when I say we have to do better as a movement, because not only do we still have some political prisoners, we're going to continue to have political prisoners as long as we continue to struggle for liberation, not just under this orange madman, but under this system. There will continue to be political prisoners. So we got to get our, excuse my language, shit together. So I apologize for that. I just had to get that out as I'm over here snacking in the background.
Don't apologize.
Right.
Yeah, we do that too. Like even just my first week with the high school students, I was telling all the girls or those who identify as girls, like, stop saying you're sorry. Like, stop apologizing. And it's very hard to do. You know, I catch myself sometimes. I'm like, why am I saying sorry for being, you know?
Yeah.
And also, like, that's the whole thing about us as sisters. We can talk about Imam, you know, Al-Amin, who just passed away, because we're really talking about humanity, you know, and I think the system seeks to take away our also empathy as women, you know what I'm saying? And I also, you know, believe that in exactly what you said, like, we're about to have mad new political prisoners. Like, the writing is on the wall. We don't know when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
And I think people have to be like ready for that. And I really believe that people just think everything's going to be all right. Well, yeah, if we have a movement, but we don't. And Thandi's right, we don't have a solid national movement anymore. There's been a lot of distrust, a lot of craziness, a lot of people turning on
liberalism.
Like it's
liberalism.
It's been kind of jarring to see everything that's going down, but we also know that people are resisting in so many ways. But unless we make it into a national movement of resistance, you know, that's how they're coming at us. And lastly, like, I think about of all the women that have been detained and disappeared, because you best believe that they probably have been assaulted in some way already in their capture, the detention, you know, that's already happening. And this country has been, you know, uses women's bodies as weapons of war. And I am every day, that's who I really also think about, like, are we really here in 2020 where this can still happen? Absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Well,
yes, we are.
Yes. I think
and,
that
going back to what, excuse me, Mom, going back to what you said, Rosa, the erasure and the silence is what enables, what reinforces, what inspires the violence that we are all familiar with, the overt violence that we are all familiar with. Silence is violence, but so is the murder of Black women. That is the violence. We have just seen in the last 24 to 48 hours video of a Clark Atlanta University student being choked and threatened with murder because she is alleged to have stepped on the shoes of a Morehouse student, a Morehouse man. This is what is allowed into Morehouse. This is how Morehouse men conduct themselves. He should have his ass beaten in the street. I don't care if it's men or women. Yes, I am calling for violence. I do condone violence. We can talk about that also. Some of us call ourselves abolitionists, and we're like, well, okay, I don't know how I feel. I know how I feel. You ain't got to call the police on him. He didn't have to go to jail. Beat his ass in the middle of the street for putting his hands on that sister because her life was not worth as much as his tennis shoes. Have you lost your mind, Negro?
I think a great part of what is the issue, I know, whether people know it or not, we are living the legacy of COINTELPRO. We are living the legacy of the consolidation of empire with both domestically and globally. And so one of the primary differences in how the physical violence that takes place today goes to what you said about the dehumanization. People are desensitized to violence. They watch video games, they watch movies where women are always bearing the brunt of the violence. Women bear the brunt of violence in wars because rape is a tool of war. So everything that we do, women, it's like what Malcolm said when Zaid started about how women are particularly Black women, because Black women are oppressed, and brown, indigenous women. But the thing that is important, and I want to just beg to add something in here, right? I am upset at the conditions. As someone who has worked on behalf of and with and is married to a former political prisoner, that's the silencing. When they took our people off the street and disappeared them in those dungeons, right? So most people don't even know what to do. Most people don't know that political prisoners exist. So I don't know that it's incompetence. I know that there are silos. I know that there is sectarianism. There's a lack of historical context and political education and development, so that the work that we have ahead of us is raising the consciousness. Because there are reasons why the things that happen in our communities today are able to happen, because the consciousness of the people is not where it was before, where that would be unacceptable. People would challenge you and call you all kinds of names and bop you upside the head for being out of line in that way. But because we don't have the consciousness that we need to build a movement and understand how the state has come after us when we've created movements and have movements, we are living in this free for all. I don't think that Imam Jamil died. He was murdered. And they mean to murder our political prisoners. They mean to murder, target. Like what Rosa said, she has always stood up for the people and fought for the people and been involved in resistance. What did she get? Death threats. Because that's what they do. And he was not allowed, with all the fight that his family engaged in since he was captured and convicted more than 20 years ago. What did they say when they got him? The FBI said, we finally got him.
We finally got him. They've been trying to get him for a while.
They was not going to let him go. And his family and people stood by him and did what they were fighting for him. But as Sekou said, if they give us the law, we will win. The issue that we have is that people are not involved enough in their communities and in the politics, local politics, state politics, to put pressure on these people, right? To say, because people elect judges, they elect prosecutors, right? They elect all of these people that run this government. If you don't have your voice in it, and I'm not saying people should go out and vote. I'm saying that's one strategy, one tactic. But we have to raise the level of you are accountable to us, so that when judges don't give us the law, they know that people are going to have a problem with that. And so I just say that because I was hysterical. I was screaming on the phone. I was crying. I was saying that they murdered him. This is what they do. Every time another political prisoner passes in prison, it triggers me in a way, because this is not some theoretical thing. These are people that we know and love, right? And so it's very, very real. So it just speaks to the level of work that we have to do to raise the consciousness. And
well, I think too what's happening is that, right, there with Me Too and what Tarana did, and I know we know it, but I always have to tell people Tarana Burke had been doing that work for 2 decades before Me Too, the hashtag, right? Like, but it was 2 moments that stick with me. Like, first, as BLM was growing, or was, about to blow up because of what was going on in Ferguson, I was on my way to LA. So I met Patrice right where me and my husband and daughter moved to, in this village called St. Elmo Village. And one day I might have, or maybe it could have been like Dreamhampton or Asha Bandelli and me or something. And I was like, yo, have you seen how all these dudes are now saying that they're founders of Black Lives Matter? And I said, I was like, listen, right now, I was like, we have to say something as older women, and, like a generation older than Patrice, Alicia, but who are already organizers. But I caught it real quick. As a historian, I always teach who's not in this book, like who is missing. And I was like, are these dudes literally trying to say they found that Black Lives Matter? So that intervention was necessary.
Yeah.
Then Black Lives Matter grows and grows. Okay. Then Me Too. It was the same thing. But Tarana obviously is who she is and was strong and was like, we know what this is about. But there were a lot of times where I was like, are you listening to what Tarana Burke is saying? She's not saying that the goal of Me Too is to arrest men, take them to trial, and put them in jail. That Me Too is about the survivors, right? And I think because she is who she is and part of our generation, she was very clear what she meant about Me Too. But then the backlash. Now we're seeing that with white men, right? And we're seeing it, right? Like any Black or Latino man that voted for Trump, you're an enemy. I don't care if you never vote for him again. F you, you're crazy. But what young men are seeing right now, they're seeing that you can sexually assault somebody and still be in office.
Yeah.
You can say the craziest things about women and still keep your job. You could do A, B, C, D, E, and you're still going to be who you can be, who you are, where we as women can never be like that, and that to me is like that kind of backlash. But it's also an understanding of just some basic facts. 44%, probably higher now, that African-American Latino women, by the time they're 18, they've been sexually abused. I'm one of them. 1 out of 3 women in some time will be sexually assaulted and raped. That happened to me in college. Okay. And then a 3rd time that I was able to escape. When people hear this right now, oh, you're so brave. No, I'm not. Right. Ask any woman right now. There's been a moment in their lives. It could be violent. It could be emotional abuse, all types of levels of violence. Right. And that to think that it doesn't impact us. And then also, as women, I don't trust every woman. I'm going to have to know, are you trying to unlearn the patriarchy? Right. And it really, I think maybe for some, because I'm streaming on my Instagram live too, it's like Hillary Clinton is not a symbol of feminism. She's a symbol of war, right? It's just
and imperialism.
It's like, say you're a Black Puerto Rican and then be anti-Black, like Richie Perez. I mean, Richie Perez, no. Richie Torres, who is the only kind of New York congressional member that is big on APAC, is got mad money, right? And I'm like, just because he's Blacker than me don't mean that he's black. Like, so these things are systemic things, which we always talk about. And how do we root them out? But I am becoming like very concerned, because I'm just now seeing a generation of younger women saying they want to be traditional wives. They want to go back to the simple times of the 60s. I'm like, you weren't even born then. What do you like? And I realized social media and them seeing, and then now a group of women saying the reason we're attacked is because we're not traditional wives. What does that mean to be traditional what? So I think a lot of younger people are getting like these mixed messages, but the main message they're getting is the worse you are, you will be rewarded, because that's what they're seeing every day. The worst of the worst being rewarded for their behavior.
Or at least the ones that are siding with the empire and doing the work of the empire. And I couldn't agree with you more. As a new African Black woman, I know that all skin folk ain't kinfolk, because they know, like, we got Thomas, what's his name, in the Supreme Court,
Clarence Thomas.
Like, you know, there's Eric Adams, there's like you name it, and even the women, right? So just because someone is a woman doesn't mean that her politics align with freedom and resistance and the right to live and be in control of our own bodies, to be in control of our own destiny. And blaming women.
I mean, look at hip hop.
Right.
Like, it's not like everybody knew at some level in the industry that this is how Puffy was. Everybody knew at some level who Russell Simmons was.
That's right.
I really encourage people to watch On the Record with Drew Dixon, where Russell Simmons raped her and ended her career. Now he's in Bali because he can't be extradited. Puffy's in jail. People got feelings about in jail. Look, in the hip hop, that's what I'm saying. There was this moment of like the golden age of hip hop, but then like a Black radical age. And within that, men were still assaulting women and then going up on a stage like, I'm for the Black people. No, dude, you're not. Like,
no, you're not.
We're seeing you. Eric Adams. There's a picture right now at the groundbreaking of the Hip Hop Museum. And who was there? Russell Simmons, Eric Adams together, Russell, Eric, and Puff Daddy. And when I saw that, I made a statement like, this is disgusting. And I said to the executive director, they're like all sexual abusers and assaulters. And he was like, well, you're not invited to the event anymore. I was like, you're lucky I can't even get to the Bronx from Albany right now, because I would have rolled up in there. Like, this is the insanity of it. So that's also the hip hop generation, like the men. And then I think, Thandi, you spoke to it. Why are we the ones always still having this conversation? I don't mean for here, because I mean just in general, like, hello, men, like, where were you? I want to know, like, the Supreme Court has taken away our reproductive rights, but our bodies. I'd lie to you not, if the Supreme Court told a man what to do with their body, America would have burned down. America would have burned down. And lastly, I don't want to hear men saying, I'm not sexist. I have a wife. I have a daughter. You shouldn't be sexist in any way. And you telling me you're not,
you are sexist
in your life. You are
sexist.
Yeah.
You are
it's like
sexist.
The racist that says, I'm not racist. I have Black friends.
Right.
You are sexist because you have never had any motivation whatsoever to look deeply into the issue of patriarchy or sexism, how it affects you, how you benefit from it, how you participate in it. And so you think the fact that you have a wife means you're not sexist. You, sir, are a part of the patriarchy. Am I saying I'm against marriage? No. I am saying that you are part and parcel of the patriarchy just from the basic fact of being a man in the United States of America. It does not matter if you are a man from an oppressed nation, nationality, class. The fact that you are a man in the United States means, one, let's talk about marginalized or oppressed nationalities, ethnicities, nation. Either you are a man with privilege or you are a man who feels you should have some privilege because you are a man. You're supposed to have power, and you don't. As a man, it pisses you off out in the world, and then you come home and say, well, I'll be goddamn if I'm not gonna have power in this house.
Yeah, just the idea, the
I
head
gotta
of the
take
house.
all of this shit outside. I'll be damned if I'm taking it from you. I'm the man of this house. What
And
I
that's the
say goes in
capitalism,
this house.
right? That's the capitalism. So we have to understand these
That's the
systems,
patriarchy.
right? That's where capitalism has to do with the patriarchy, right? The man is the breadwinner. The man is the head of the household. And I think that I'm never of the idea about, like, because sometimes, like, when Maya Angelou says, when we know better, we do better, right? And so people have to
But if
be,
you don't want to know no better,
yeah, but right, no, I don't know about people not wanting to know better. I think people are stuck in their ways. I think people
no,
are comfortable in their positions. People
I
reject that
respectfully
they have.
disagree, Ma.
You can, baby, you can, right? But I think that what happens is we all have to work against what we've been conditioned to believe, and the normalization of violence, and the normalization of, quote, these traditional ideas. Because why?
Yes,
We are copying Europeans. Because if you go
absolutely,
around the world, cultures
absolutely.
around the world have been matrilineal. And so we come here with the capitalism, the settler colonialism, the white supremacy, and we get these ideas that this is the way it's supposed to be, and we lose ourselves, and we lose the value system and the cultural ways that help to keep us together. So no, I'm not saying, yeah, beat his ass, but then pull back the
Absolutely.
layers and say, why did you do that?
Why
Right?
did you do?
What?
We can ask him that. Why are we beating his ass? I'm good.
What? Okay.
Ask
Well,
him the question
I
why as you're beating his ass.
well, I think that it has to do with, and I'm never making excuses for the violence and for the dysfunction, but I know that this system has hundreds of years of training
Mm-hmm.
and conditioning
Mm-hmm.
and normalizing violence, right? The
Absolutely.
English language in and of itself is violent.
Violent.
Males wear t-shirts that they call wife beaters.
Wife
That
beaters.
shit is
Yes.
violent, right?
Yes.
So, but that has been adopted and absorbed into
Mm-hmm.
into the culture. And so the education piece
Mm-hmm.
starts from little. That we correct what Rosa said about correcting it when it's little. When we hear our children say, I want a wife beater on," or you hear people say, "Oh, he had on a wife beater." That's inappropriate, right? I
Mm-hmm.
work with high school students. They would talk about how many bodies they had. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that was to remark how many people they had sex with. I said, do you
Yeah.
realize how violent that is? Body
Yep.
is a dead person, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so we have been conditioned to accept and embrace the normalization of the violence, not just in our actions, but in the ways that we think. And so what you think, it controls what you do. And that's
Absolutely.
the work. That's the work, right? Changing helping to people to develop a historical construct and context to understand that how they have been taught to believe about themselves and each other is incorrect, is dehumanizing.
And what they have been taught to believe about feminism is
Absolutely.
incorrect. Because
Absolutely.
if they studied feminism, they would understand that there's more than just simply mainstream bourgeois white woman's feminism. There's
Right.
decolonial feminism.
That's
There's
right.
anti-imperialist feminism. There's
Right.
anarchist feminism. Bell Hooks, who people, black men in particular, love to trash,
Mm-hmm.
wrote a book called We Real Cool on Black Men and Masculinity. And in the beginnings of that book, she starts out talking about Ivan van Sertima's They Came Before Columbus. Why would she do that? She said black men came here as travelers from African empires, African kingdoms, maritime travelers, have been here before white folks. But when they came here, did they rape, pillage, rob, and plunder? No, they did not do that. That's not who those black men were.
Mm-hmm.
Black men have learned rape, pillage, and plunder from white boys.
Yes.
This is how Bell Hooks, who folks love to demonize, starts her book talking about Black men and masculinity. There's got to be an accountability process. And at its root, that is what feminism does. And that's why men, Black men in particular, are afraid of it or hate it. They do not want to be accountable. And so when we say women can't be the only ones having this discussion,
Right.
men have got to have a discussion on the International Day of Violence Against Women during Women's History Month. Men have got to have these discussions. As uncomfortable as they are, brothers have to have these discussions.
Right.
It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be reactionary. It's going to be ignorant.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, jump in there.
Right.
Ain't nobody going to beat you up. You're not going to leave bloody. You might leave battered a little bit emotionally, but you'll be all right and you get back to doing the work the next day. That has got to happen. That has got to happen.
We have Black feminism, right? Like Barbara Smith.
Yes.
Lives here in Albany. I'm like so super grateful. Naomi Jaffe, Weather Underground, lives here in Albany. Like for me, especially Naomi Jaffe, it has always just been here for all of us to struggle with these kind of questions. People might not know who she is. Watch the Weather Underground. Naomi is a G to this day.
Yeah,
but on the good side, at least for me, this is what I've seen happening in Puerto Rico. After Hurricane Maria hit, right, like the consciousness of an island changed because Donald Trump threw his paper towels. Okay, so mutual aid, self-determination. And in 9 years, it's going to be 9 years next year, and 10 years, in less than 2 years of the 10-year commemoration of Hurricane Maria. But then in 2019, when Ricardo Rosselló, the governor, conservative governor, white boy governor, part of the quote, white boy Puerto Rican elite, him and all the men in his cabinet got caught sending thousands of text messages to each other saying the craziest things about women, talking about helping the police in Puerto Rico find trans women and kill them and throw them away. Like the texts are insane. Then a big part of them were also against Mayor Yulín Cruz, who was the mayor of San Juan that everybody knows. Okay, so then the La Feminista Colectiva in Puerto Rico had already been together, but they led the entire movement to get Ricardo Rosselló to resign. I went there and I covered it. And what I ended up finding problematic is when I was at the large march that was marching 1.5 million Puerto Ricans, shut down the entire country, that a lot of the reporters were like, oh my God, Bad Bunny's here on Presidente. And I'm like, okay, that's great. I was like, but are you talking to the women who put all this together? They're literally the bodies on the line right now. Fast forward to about 2 months ago. And this is why we know that the Feminista Colectiva, to me, is the new way to do organizing. The FBI infiltrated them, and a report just came out from the Latino newsletter saying that particularly the FBI was going after the leaders in the feminist collective. They had an incredible press conference, but they named the women. No men are named. It's the women, and the FBI is like, we need to stop them immediately because they can actually probably achieve the independence. And why? Because the Puerto Rican independence movement for a very long time was just men. And men that had patriarchy and men that were anti-Black and anti-Black Boricua. The FBI is now like, wait, these women are putting together all the intersections that everybody, right? And I'm like, that's the danger, right? And when we say danger, we mean this is good. Like it's not
danger to the state,
but thank you, to these women of a younger generation that are seeing that nobody kind of gets left behind. But even with that, it's always predicated for me on the physical violence that could happen to them. I think is always higher than it could happen to men. And but what's going on in Puerto Rico is beautiful, and it's being led by women and younger folks, and that's why it's dangerous to the government right now, especially with the protests that are going every day on the U.S. military in Puerto Rico getting ready to invade Venezuela, because that's what they're getting ready to do. And look at all the women that will suffer. You know, how many boats they've blown up. I want to know how many women they've killed. I want to understand why.
Well,
Fortunately, to this day, even with all this going on in Puerto Rico, that Puerto Rico in the Western Hemisphere has the highest levels of violence against women, but also murder of women. And most of the women that have been murdered are their husbands are in the Puerto Rican, they are police officers as well. So there's all these kind of dynamics that you see. Everything we're talking about is kind of playing out in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, I think that it's important for people to know the I keep going back to, you know, the thing about the education, teaching people, educating people, breaking down these ideas and these value systems, and to not, for people, like even listening to this conversation, it's not about, because a lot of times people, males in particular, and I don't say men, right, but that they are, it's easy for them to reject it, because one person's fiction is another person's reality, right? So people don't want to hear your truth or the truth of the experience, so they tend to reject it and deny it. But it's not about bashing people, because what you're doing is about love, right? When we talk about feminism, when we talk about self-determination, we talk about freedom, we talk about resistance. That's about all of us. That's not about one group over another. And what happens is the conversation, which is Logic 101, when you were in college and you had to take the Logic 101, it was about discourage the discussion by bringing other stuff in there. So this is not about bashing. This is about love. This is about creating the conditions for people to live out their life in ways that don't have the violence. So all that you're saying is about the love of the people. But yeah, we do have to critique. We do have to speak the truth to power. We do have to say it. The problem is how we started out. Why, if women are saying it, it gets marginalized and rendered invisible and pushed and pushed to the side, like women don't know their own experience. So I'm not sure how much time we have, but I do want to hear you know, kind of speak to what you think about what we can do, because we know what the issue is. This is hundreds of years of this shit, right? So what can we do in the spaces that we are in with the people? Like Rosa, I know that you are doing mad shit with the young people that you work with, that you are educating, because that's who you are, right? That's what you do. And Thandisizwe, with your writing, your journalism, this book that I want to get a hold of, right? Because I want to read about it and learn about it. Because the problem is, we can always say men's names. There's so many women, unless they become, quote, extraordinary, right? Like, people have tended to separate Asada from the movement that she was a part of. But there are many Asadas that were in the Black freedom struggle and are continuing to do the work. Tomorrow is Cleo Silver's birthday. May she rest in power. People go to the hospital and they read the Patient's Bill of Rights. That's because that's what she did. That's her legacy, right? But we know the males' names, but we don't know the women's names. And then, so how do we teach our young girls and boys that we are all a part of this struggle and we all do the work, and it's not just the man's role, or this is not just the women's work, this is all of our work. So I thank you both for the work that you're doing to chip away. Like they say, the prison is just a wall. So
and it can be torn down.
Right? So is the miseducation of our people. And so, of course, because we don't have institutions in that way, then we have to educate in the places that we are. But most of our people go to these fucked up institutions to be miseducated and undereducated. And then they become adults and they carry that with them. And something has to happen in our lives to help us peel back the layers to say, how I've been thinking and operating all these years, all my life, is wrong. And I'm thankful for the story that you shared about your dad, Rosa. Thank you for that. Because we act as gatekeepers of oppression. whether it's racial, gender, whatever it is, we act as we sometimes act as gatekeepers. So what do you think in this moment, right, we can do to help to chip away at this age-old issue?
Well, it has to be confronted head on. It has to be confronted. We have to confront it. When we see it, we have to demand accountability. Just like what I said in the beginning, I believe Imam Jamil is dead, murdered, killed due to incompetence. I will apologize later if I am wrong or um, harm someone irreparably with that statement. I will apologize later and hope I'll be forgiven later. But right now, today, that's how I feel. We have got to
Do better.
attack, is the word I want to use. We've got to attack sexism, patriarchy, misogyny war when we see it. And in that confrontation, we will see, are we dealing with someone, an actual sociopath, or someone who simply did not know?
No,
And
that's a
that
good point.
informs our next move. Because I believe people can be redeemed, but only if they want to be. This is not about forgiveness.
Mhm.
Do you want to do better? Do you want to serve the people? You do understand Black women are part of the people, right? That you cannot harm people and say you about the liberation of the people at the same time. So if you're serious about it, tell me how you plan on eradicating this, on correcting your behavior, how
Right.
we can help you. And if you're not serious, you're just going to walk away, badmouth us, and try to be part of another organization. And we see you.
And we see that. That's right.
And we're going to let folks know what happened when you was over here with us.
Good. That's an excellent point. Not letting people slide, because the tendency is for people to go from one organization to another doing the same thing, because we have to attack it. We cannot be liberal and say, okay, just they're no longer here, so we're just glad that they're no longer here. No, we got to expose and we have to confront. So thank you for that.
And as activists, organizers, as people who are part of organizations, it's got to be part of our organizational culture. It's got to
Yep.
be one of our pillars.
That's right.
But it does not stop there.
Right.
When you see it in an individual, you have to confront it head on. Because what's going to happen? Well, they not part of our organization. That ain't part of my business. If you were driving down the street and saw the police beating up a Black man, would you keep going or would you intervene? Whether that's stopping to record, stopping to yell, or stopping to throw something at the cop, what would you do? Well, she just gonna go back to him. Are you doing this to save her? Or are you doing this for the political principle you have internalized?
Mm.
Which one is it? Because it's not about the individual. We're not in the streets because George Floyd was somebody's son. We didn't get in the streets because Trayvon was Sabrina Fulton's son. We got in the streets because we saw an injustice and we knew why it was an injustice and we knew it could happen to any of us.
Right.
That's why we got in the streets. Not because Oscar Grant was Wanda Johnson's baby boy. That's not why we got in the streets. We don't know Wanda. Miss Wanda, we don't know her from Adam. We didn't know Oscar from Adam. Still don't know him. We do this because it's the right thing to do. And we have to take that exact same mentality, that exact same position when it comes to violence against women.
Absolutely.
It's an entitlement mindset. When Gromsky talks about hegemony and culture, it's an entitlement mindset.
Right.
Part of individualism that capitalism and white supremacy and imperialism feeds upon has to be attacked.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And I also think about like the women in our community that still don't feel that they can talk about what happened to them for many reasons, right? Like, but we as women know, like, there's a vibe that women get that you're like, hey, are you okay? Or like, what's going on? There was like I said, in the 90s, even though we were leaders and all that, it was always about the men, even with police violence until the intervention of Say Her Name. And then we can also see, like, it to me, I get so angry that every time we talk or about the leadership of Black Lives Matter, the 3 co-founders, that to this day, people literally think that DeRay
DeRay
McKesson,
McKesson.
what's the other dude's name? The
John
grifter.
King.
Sean King, right? The grifter, literally Black Lives Matter. And I'll be like, no, that's so wrong. Like, so these interventions. What I will say, as someone that's was in college, right? As an undergrad, we were encouraged as women. This is what they would do to the young women. They would have a meeting and they'd be like, listen, so when you go out this weekend, don't wear this, don't say that, don't do that. Right? First of all, did they have that conversation with the men?
That's
no.
right.
The way
Don't
they
put your hands on nobody. Don't put nothing in nobody drink. They don't tell them that.
All of that. Or like the way we're going to deal with sexual violence on the campus is to put up blue phones. And you're like, that doesn't stop it. But the flip side also on the men's side is this. Less than 2% of men rape. What happens is when they get away with it once, they keep getting away with it. And as they keep it could be the same undergraduate that raped women as a freshman, a sophomore, a junior, a senior, now in grad school. There's the reality that Black studies is still not fully embracing not just Black womanism, but Black feminism, Africana womanism. Why to this day do we have to struggle? If I'm reading 50 books and I only see 2 of them of women, I have to say something in my Black studies department.
Right. But let's talk about that.
Right, in the past, it's like, just be quiet. And what I realized in my Black studies at UMass Amherst was, here I am with some of the creators of Black studies, but Dr. John Bracey, he rests in freedom. We lost him way too soon. He always was like, y'all need to be quiet and listen to the women. And they're right. Like, why are there only 2 books on women out of the 50 books they have to read? It's these kind of constant interventions that we have to do. I will say too, I think there's something happens, because it's happening to me, that once we turn 50, it's really, I don't give no fucks anymore. Like, first, I'm like, I ain't trying to be in no room with, I've been talking to you about this for 25 years. You haven't changed. I'm done. That's right. I'm not going to be on a panel. Like, I've started to walk off panels. Like, you know what? Nah. Right. Like, I'm not going to sit here. And then lastly, I believe that, like, we have incredible younger women that are queering and the movement. And my favorite book right now, and I just want to share it, is called Unapologetic, A Black Queer and Feminist Mandate for Radical Movements by Charlene Carruthers. Charlene was one of the founders of Black Youth Project, and now she's getting her PhD. To me, that has really opened my eyes around, like, a mandate for radical movements. So just like the Black Panther Party had a 10-point program, I think every organization should have a list of things we're not even going to deal with. And as Thandie said, if there's a man that is willing to be restorative, that is willing to take accountability, we will embrace you. But if you're not willing to do that, no, you should not be in this space. Because at the end of the day, we're the ones that end up doing most of the work anyway. Because we're a better way of communicating. Be like, we got things to do. Get the list done. Then we'll have the other conversation. But for younger women, they need to know that stand up. Don't be afraid. Reach out to a mentor. Reach out to a peer. Find someone like you, because we have been talking about this as Black and brown women for the sake of this conversation. The minute we are born, we're born into the patriarchy.
That's right.
So we got to outroot that. We got to outroot the white supremacy. And it's a constant struggle. It's a constant struggle.
Constant freedom is a constant struggle. Yeah, absolutely. And the price, was it, someone said the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. It may have been Mama Ida B. Wells, I'm not sure. But I keep getting these notes to mention my books. Yes. What we stood for talks about the life of the woman who testified against Maulana Karenga, which sent him to prison in 1971. Maulana Karenga is known as a pillar of the Black Studies movement. He promotes himself as the founder of Kwanzaa. So this might be part of the reason why, Rosa, you run into those particular roadblocks in Black Studies departments. Not just men, a man at the head of this movement. So what we stood for, again, it talks about Deborah Jones and what she endured over Mother's Day weekend in 1970. I originally wanted to call the book Nobody Knows My Name, or Nobody Knows Our Names, Gail Davis and Deborah Jones, because, you know, people are dislike Karenga because of the murders of Bunchy and John. But even though he was not there when that happened, he gets the blame for it. But every year during Kwanzaa, they use, of course, the murders of Bunchy and John to vigorously condemn not only Karenga, but Kwanzaa. And when that doesn't work, they always say, well, you know, he raped 2 sisters, right? You know, he brutalized 2 sisters. I would hear that year after year, but I never heard their names. Who are these women? What are their names? Are they still alive to this day? And I was put in touch with Deborah Jones. She gave an oral history to the California State University Northridge Black Power Archives. We were put in touch with her by other activists in the city. We got her oral history. I was put in touch with her. We said, we got to tell your story, got to give it a book. And so this is what she talks about, being in the US organization, similar experiences, not just with sexism, but like with Asada, just growing up as a Black girl in the 1960s and the 1970s, a daughter of South Los Angeles, knowing Bunchy, not necessarily John, but Deborah Jones went to Fremont High School. Many of the Panthers had their office in that particular area. So she knew many of these people. And that's one of the beauties of her book. How many people know each other? You know, it starts out not only just about what you're concerned about from a personal standpoint, but you get involved because you know people. I trust Rosa. I'm going to see what this organization is talking about. Mama Dequi has never steered. Stirred, is that the right one? Yep. Push me in the wrong direction. I trust what she's telling me. People know each other. They have relationships with one another. They go to the same school, go to the same dances, hang out at the same park, even date some of the same people. And so remembering that when we see these sister stories, but again, the book is called What We Stood For. And that's Deborah Jones's story that I helped to assist write. Some of Us Are Brave are interviews with various sisters over the years that I conducted through my work in radio at KPFK, hearing sisters tell their stories. And again, the whole thing about accountability in Black men, all of these stories are not bashing Black men.
That's right.
Sometimes it's just about what a sister goes through.
That's right.
It's just about what a sister goes through.
That's right.
I've got interviews with sisters from 20 years ago talking about anxiety, talking about fibroids. You understand what I'm saying? Talking about abortion, talking about not just sisters, actually. I have an interview with a Babalawo who talks about how the issue of unborn children was dealt with in the African continent from a traditional standpoint. Oh, excuse me. What is it that Anna Julia Cooper says? I can't remember it at the moment, but somewhere in the book I quote it. Basically, it talks about the fact that when we're missing the woman's voice, we're missing half of the story.
Like where and when I enter, the whole race enters with
me. Paula Giddings, exactly. Right. When you don't listen to women, you miss half of the story.
Absolutely.
And if you're not listening to women because you're afraid they're going to attack you as a man, number one, you're a coward. Number two, it ain't always about you. Number three, broaden your horizon, broaden your perspectives, especially if you call yourself an activist, an organizer, a revolutionary. You have to know your people.
Right.
And I know we've got to go, but you brought up Dr. Karenga, right? He still has his job, right?
Right.
He just retired after 50 years.
Right. But him and some of the
and making
brother.
money and traveling
Yeah,
and
like
speaking. Yeah,
he was, with all of this, he still was the chair of a Black Studies department. He was there for 50 years. There's other chairs of that generation of older Black men. It's like, it goes back to me. It's like, again, if you begin, if young boys, men, movement, not movement, the whatever, keep seeing people, men rewarded for their violence, they are going to be violent too.
right. Absolutely. Well,
Hold on. Wait, wait.
as
Before we go, there's a comment made with love, duh.
Oh
I never
yes.
heard that. That's horrible. It just feels like have no heroes, study alone and don't be in groups. No, that is
No.
not, that's
right.
not what we
That's
want to
I was
do.
thank you,
Yeah.
because that's what I was getting ready to speak to, that the person put in there. We have people who have issues and challenges and don't know, don't care, all of that. But we don't wipe off the whole everybody because of that. We do need to have people and to look up, not to make them icons or like not there to dismiss
Heroes,
their
yeah.
humanity, but there are people who stand up and who are righteous. And I just want to echo, right, the what you said. I can't wait to read this
Me
book,
too.
because it's the same thing with, when I was working in the school system. I would not, we did events, my students and I would not let them play R. Kelly, right? Because people were gatekeepers of that. We live around the corner from the Barclays, right? And then people, I remember one year, a number of years ago, he had a concert. It was packed because people give, like Rosa said, a license to that. And so
Mhm.
we have to, like you said, we have to nip it in the bud. We have to challenge it. We have to confront it. Like Audre Lorde said, even at the risk of it being buried, misunderstood, condemned, criticized, all of that. We have to speak that truth. And listening to the things that you're saying, especially with you, Rosa, what you're saying about the young people, like, they're the ones we're waiting for, right? Like June John says, we are the ones that we've been waiting for. And so to tell those stories, to push us further, because it is up to every new generation to carry us further than we were. So the fact that you're saying that there are young people that are carrying this further, then that's a good thing. That means that it's a line, because that's what we're supposed to do. But it ain't easy. It ain't easy. Sekou said that's why we call this struggle. And as someone who loves a Black man dearly, Sekou is the love of my life. It was a wonderful feeling, and Rosa, I'm sure you can attest to this, right? To be with a man who got who I am. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have to explain. I didn't have to justify, none of that stuff. It didn't mean it was perfect, but politically, right, and spiritually, he understood certain things that I did not have to argue with because of who he is as a man, right? And so that's the word, to bring those dynamics into our personal relationships, because then we can go out into the world and do them with as on a political level.
I
Danny?
have to say that one of the things that stood out for me then and continues to stand out for me and will forever stand out to me. We sisters look to Asada as a role model, as our heroine, as our Harriet Tubman, of course. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But when your hero, your Shiro, when your role model speaks some truth into the world, it's almost like it can be earth shattering, right? Two things that I remember Mama Asada saying. She talked about Sundiata Kohli. She said his love for Black people is so intense you can almost hold it in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
I've never forgotten that. And in her book, her autobiography, when she said that Afeni Shakur told her that Sekou Odinga was one of the few men she ever met who did not abuse women.
Yep.
I was like, well, god damn, who is Sekou Odinga? Who is this brother? I'm so glad I got to meet Baba.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Such a sweet man, such a sweet brother. And unlike, how I began tonight, in tears over Imam Jamil's passing. I'm so glad Baba Sekou got to get out and enjoy some freedom.
Yes.
He enjoyed some freedom. I don't know if you noticed, Mama Dequi. You know, we got video of when Baba came to LA and was riding around on a bicycle.
Yeah,
We
I
got a
think you
video
sent
of
me
him.
that video. I watch it every now and then still.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, yes. I'm so glad he was able to, because he deserved it. They all deserved
They
it.
all deserve
Let
it.
me not start rambling again. But anyway, I remember that from Asada, what she said about Baba Sekou and what she said about Sundiata Goli.
Right. And so we say that there are brothers that are like that, and we got the work to do to educate the ones who are not. So that's part of, that's why I say, like I said, I'm always invoking Sekou, because he still lives inside of me, right? In my memory, in my heart. And so his words, like, this is why they call it struggle. Because that's what we do. We struggle with people to help them to develop the correct position, not our position, the correct position.
Yeah.
Like what you said, Sister Thandisizwe, the correct position. And there are some things that's correct, and there are some other things that are fucked up.
Incorrect.
And we gotta call that out. So
and,
I don't know.
And made with love. Don't be afraid.
Right.
Continue to study. Continue to seek out like-minded people. Yeah, there are going to be times when you get disappointed and hurt, but you got to keep going.
Absolutely. So I would do I take that as your last words? Because I was getting ready to ask you and both Rosa for last words. So would those be your last words?
That would be my last word.
All right, Sister Rosa.
I'm just happy to be in space with both of you. I admire both of you so much. Like, I know that if I'm breaking or crying, Thandi will pick up that phone. And I really deeply believe, like, for the first time in my life, that I have a crew of just so many strong sisters, but also I have a pretty incredible husband, and like, justice is everything. It's kind of like I look at Justice and my daughter Alicia, and when they're together, it's just something different, like, in a beautiful way, right? Like, I want her to be like that with me. She will. She's in her 20s, I'm 50. Daughters and moms battle, but I do know and have watched how important it is for Justice to have raised Alicia, because she will not tolerate any of that. Like, but even with that, there came a moment too where I was like, okay, I see it now as a teenage girl. Like, these outwardly things are kind of not vibing with who she is, but I, as a mom, have to help her through that. It's not helpful to be like, just don't do that. Just be like, hey, what's going on? Because of the pressures that teenage girls, when they come together, it's just always like, for some reason, that patriarchy. And there's a level where, like, teenage girls could be really, really mean. And I'm like, they didn't just come up with that. They're learning that. And if my daughter had to deal with mean teenage girls, like, maybe our work is still not done, but at the end of the day, it is invaluable to have a partner in your life that's like, do you, I got you, go. And is ultimately not jealous of you, because all my other relationships that turned some abusive was because they were jealous of me and I just didn't see it. And it took one moment to be like, why am I here? This is crazy. You know better.
Right. Yeah. And on that note, Sekou used to say that he was Mr. Kioni Sadiki.
Justice said he wants the Clemente name. I'm like, you don't have to ask my dad for permission for that.
Well, I want to thank my sisters for being here, for your wisdom, for your experience, for your love, for your insight, for your words. Thank you so much for being who you are and representing in the ways that you do and the work that you do. I am grateful and humbled to be in your presence, and I'm so very appreciative, as well as appreciative of the folks who are watching on YouTube and the comments and that people have been making. And I'm sure you I was getting ready to say,
people watching. Yeah. I'll have to send it to Baba. I'll send it to
Mhm.
Muhammad
Okay.
too.
So thank y'all. I love you. I love you. I love you.
Love
Love
y'all.
you
Thank you
too.
for
Love
making this
y'all.
We
happen.
all stay there for a second
Okay.
because I have to thank you. Tandy, you're doing monumental work.
Thank you.
Those books should be in all of our PE6, lists, all of them,
Mhm.
right? And they're powerful tools. I've said to folks that, Malcolm and Asada represent the continuum of the revolutionary slave narrative in the 20th century. You got a bunch of them together, right? Blow that out,
Okay.
right?
Mhm.
Rosa, I'm terribly sorry about what happened to you. I never heard you lift that up,
Mhm.
right? And if no one has ever apologized to you, for the father and brother in me, let me tell you how sorry I am that you went through that. And let me also affirm just how incredible it is that you not only survived that, but you transcended that.
Right.
And I hope the young women who are bearing those scars in a fresh way can see themselves beyond that the way you did, in the way
Thank
you
you.
have.
It's funny, I have shared it before, but I've never had an elder or someone, tell me what you told me. So yeah, it's just, and I have shared it a lot, but it hits
That ain't
different ways.
easy to share.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
It's
And people don't always hear it the way that you heard it. So that's it too. So thank you.
Dequi, my sister. I want everybody to understand that brave, bold black man that walked out of prison and became her husband was because of the work she did.
Yes.
Mhm.
She did that,
Mhm.
right? She organized that campaign, that step by step, and all in the negotiation and tongue bite we had to do in the process. She walked us through that and walked him out of here. And we have used that script that she set
Mhm.
to get others out. They
Yeah.
said
Mhm.
Sundiata would never give out. We used the playbook of Dequi Kioni Sadiki to get Sundiata out, and he's out.
Mhm.
The same playbook to get Russell Maroon Schultz out.
Mhm.
Right?
Jalil,
Yeah,
Mutu.
but
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
say
You
who
know
came
what
out and other people started following.
I'm saying?
Yep,
2014 was other
That's
people was
right.
coming out 15,
But
14,
you
15.
set that in motion. That man had
absolutely.
plenty of good reason to hold on to you.
Mhm.
No,
He
making
was
it
right.
plain. And he adored you.
Yeah.
He
I
Mhm.
drove
absolutely
him
adored
crazy, but he adored me.
you. Yeah, but
I
he loved
always
it. Hey,
heard that.
listen. Hey, he loved that about you.
Right. Imam
He
Talib,
like, you did the degree
right.
so.
May he rest in power. Imam
Oh,
Talib said when Sekou would come to Juma, he'd always say, "How's Dequi?" He said, "You know she's tough, but I love her." So
Right.
I appreciate you saying that.
On behalf of the Malcolm X Commemoration Committee, and those of us still here, and those of us who've gone on before us, I'm supremely proud of each of you. This is one hell of a conversation. We're going to be sharing this and blasting this out. We encourage y'all to do that as well. We hope it leads to some practical things that we need to be doing in our ranks to address this, right? So I hope I live long enough to see us come to another place with this. Time will tell. But I just want to
Mhm.
thank everybody. Everybody, I want to apologize to everybody. Our Facebook page is down again. Next year, we want to see several things happen going into the next year. We're going to lift up Fidel and we're going to lift up the party and those anniversaries to be sure. But we're looking forward to a new web page to give us more autonomy in terms of our social media outlets. We're looking, to get back in real space in a more regular way in New York as well as the ground. We're also trying to break in New Jersey and all those other things that we have been doing. Solidarity is order of the day, right? Black Panther Party said, build a united front against fascism. 100%. We ain't taking a step back from nowhere. We're going to rumble with whoever we got to rumble with. In DC or New York City, we're going to fight for our freedom.
That's
And we're
right.
going to do it by any means necessary. So, like and subscribe our page, put it out. We'll let you know whether or not we're going to do Revolutionary Fourth Sunday in December because it is going to be in the middle of Kwanzaa. We'll see. It's our intent to do it, but we'll see. We may have to just step back and just gear up for what we got to do next year and let everybody do what they do during the Kwanzaa season. Give thanks to our queens, our warrior queens, our warrior women for their contributions. Give thanks to the incredible life that we lost today in Imam Jamil.
Sure. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Yes.
Long live Imam Jamil.
Long live brother.
And we say, may he be granted with the most select space in Jannah or paradise, with the most beloved martyrs.
Mm-hmm.
May the ancestors give him a welcome dance that will blow even his incredible mind.
Mm-hmm.
I
See you all in
mean,
the whirlwind, and hopefully we'll see you pretty soon. Excellence and Malcolm.
Sure.
Thank you, everyone.
all right. Thank
Love
you.
you all. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Thank y'all for the discussion. Peace.
Absolutely.
All power to the
Absolutely.
people.
All power to the people and free the land.
Peace, free land.
Free the land always. Love
Yeah.
y'all.
Okay. Peace.